better tell them to be quiet.
Welcome to Third Floor Views, a production of Chesapeake Family Life, where we talk about health, education, and living with kids. I'm your host, Janet Jefferson. Today, we are discussing how to transform your dog into a confident, well-behaved family member. Here with us is trainer Christy Faber from the Perfect Pet Resort and Elizabeth Chaney, owner of the Perfect Pet Resort. So thank you for being here with us today. To our viewers, please feel free to submit any questions or comments that you have in the comment section, and we will get to as many as we can. So first off, I want to start with both of you just telling us a little bit more about your background, because there's a lot more there than just trainer and owner. So Elizabeth, can you start just talking just briefly about your background and a little bit about how the Perfect Pet Resort got started?
Sure. So when the Perfect Pet Resort got started, it originated with a passion for all animals, but specifically for dog training. So I grew up training dogs all of my life. In fact, I think I know my high school required how-to speech was how to train a dog. So I think it originated quite some time ago, because that's been a while. So then I started a dog training company in 1999. And that evolved actually into Perfect Pet Resort that opened in 2003. So it has its origins in dog training and a passion for the human-dog bond. So that's kind of how we started here, and been going strong ever since.
Christy, how about you? What's a little bit about your background? Because I know it's more than just dogs.
Well, I started with the Perfect Pet Resort back in 2007, teaching puppy classes and basic obedience, but I came on with the passion for dog agility as a sport I had taken on with my border collies. Before that, I was a avid and passionate horse person, and I did a lot of competition. I did a lot of teaching, probably since I was a teenager. Started riding, went on to be a professional horse trainer and riding instructor. So that was my life's passion. But as I went along, the horses were more and more challenging to maintain and to continue with. And I turned to my dogs. And so then I continued my passion for not only animals, but teaching with the dogs with Perfect Pet Resort, which was amazing because I could now help people understand and have better relationships with their dogs. So I always am very fortunate to be here with Elizabeth to share this excellent place to share that passion for helping people with their dogs.
Well, thank you both for joining us today. I imagine that you're very busy right now because in this pandemic, a lot of people being stuck at home have realized that they need some more companionship. So a lot of people have gone out and acquired a new family pet. So I'm sure right now, often people are thinking, maybe I should explore some dog training and see if maybe this puppy or this older adopted dog maybe could use a few more manners. So let's start off with sort of the big question of why should you train your dog? Elizabeth, why is training a dog important?
A lot of reasons. But I would say first and foremost, it's about developing a relationship with your dog, a greater understanding and better communication between the two. Dog training is all about understanding dog language and what the dog is communicating to us, so that we can then set the dogs up to learn and be successful, and we live a very high quality, harmonious life together. That's training. Training is not teaching a command. It's about learning and that bond and that relationship, which is so unique and beautiful with a dog.
Now, I know that there are a lot of different philosophies on dog training out there. Could you maybe speak just to a few of those categories? And so I know a lot of our families out there are trying to decide like, okay, yes, I do want to train my dog, but I don't know sort of where to begin or what to look for. So could you speak to just a few of those different ideas or philosophies when it comes to training? Christy, why don't you just speak a little bit about some of your philosophies that you use?
So I have a mixture of philosophies because every dog and every, dog owner or family is a little different in their goals and their experience. So there are trainers that have only positive. You can only use positive rewards. There are trainers that use only correction. I'm a mixture of the two. I love to use positives. I love to use treats, use, praise, use other rewards as in let's go for a walk, let's go outside, let's do some fun things together, let's play with a toy. Those are all rewards for the dog. But there has to be sometimes consequences. So, puppy is gone having the evening zoomies and is trying to chew on everything and everyone. They might need just a little moment in their crate by themselves, a little time out to chill out, chew on a bone, regroup, and let the rest of the family regroup to bring that puppy out again and work together. So sometimes there has to be consequences for that dog. So I like a good mixture of that. It's all based on understanding what the dog is saying, observing what the puppy's doing or older dog, and being able to help that dog be the best they can.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can add something, Janet, to training is as much about, it's really shaping. So you are starting with what Christy said, the dog and the people, and there are no dogs that are the same and no people that are the same. So you really need to look at both and say, their goals. So you have to start with an understanding of the dog and shape. And when Christy talks about consequences, it's not necessarily, and she's using the crate as a timeout to maybe limits options so the puppy isn't getting itself into all these undesirable behaviors that people are getting upset about. It's actually a nice place where the dog can rest from the people as much as the people break from the dog. So it's consequences can be very it's all a part of teaching and shaping, not necessarily corrective measures. You may be correcting an undesirable behavior by presenting a better option for the dog to choose.
That makes a lot of sense. In terms of, so my background is a teacher, and so I'm dealing with children, not with dogs. But these are all family members, and you want to be teaching children and dogs both with kindness and but also with consequences. And a simple timeout or a break or a rest period, I think, makes a lot of sense for both children and dogs.
Very valuable.
So a lot of people right now, they do have new animals at home and are probably thinking, well, should I give this a go myself? Would you suggest trying to train a dog yourself? And obviously not you, but sort of a person who doesn't have a lot of experience training. Why or why not? And at what point would you recommend that someone seek a professional trainer? Elizabeth, if you could just speak about that a little bit.
So that was correct me if I'm going, those were several questions there.
Yes.
But the reason, so I think that being involved in training is very important. So there's so many different ways of doing that. I certainly believe that a trainer, an experienced trainer, is very beneficial and can help you progress really in the right direction pretty quickly and efficiently. There's so many myths and misconceptions out there, and so many, there's lots of great information as well, but there's also a lot of misconceptions and a lot of things and techniques and lots of things that you can read. But having a true instructor who's going to help you see your own dog and the characteristics of your own dog and what your dog needs to help you achieve the goals that you have set out for the family. So I think that having a trainer for guidance is really important. Some people, and the level of guidance varies from, a stay and train program, for example, and or private lessons, and the number can be anything that it needs to be to achieve the goal and help the people where they need to be and help the dogs get what they need from their family. So, yeah.
So it sounds like a trainer is really useful in moving forward as sort of quickly as possible, and that without a trainer, you could potentially run into a fair number of dead ends and not be successful, and then maybe be a little more frustrated along the way, and maybe even pick up some other less desirable behaviors than you were intending.
That's exactly right. And some of it is just guidance. So to avoid some of the maybe more common or not so common mistakes that are made. And, again, one dog, your neighbor's dog has a different need than your dog.
Right.
Both in training and in life. One dog may need more exercise and another dog may not require as much. One might need more mental stimulation and one, not so much, not quite as much. So it's very important that you work with someone who can help you really maximize that relationship and that bond and to achieve the goals and meet everyone's needs.
Yeah, that makes, again, I have children and a dog, so I feel like with my teacher's background, I can speak a little bit to this and not get in too terrible much trouble. But there is so many similarities to teaching. At the end of the day, it is just teaching. And when I'm teaching students, I'm going to think about what each individual student needs. Same with the dog. So I can see the importance of having a trainer who really has that specialty in knowing different dog personalities and what each individual dog would need. So the importance of having that trainer there. Let's talk a little bit about what training right now looks like, because you already spoke a little bit about some individualized attention, or maybe even a class. Since we are in the middle of a pandemic with the rules changing sort of potentially every day in terms of what's the what's allowed and what's not in terms of contact. What are classes or a training looking like for you right now? Is it virtual? Is it in person? Is it individual? Is it classes? So what are the different offerings that you have? Christy, could you just speak a little bit to what training looks like these days?
So I do a lot of group classes and private lessons. So my group classes, I've made the numbers small so we can spread out and have a lot of space. There's plenty of time to work with each person a bit. And then there's plenty of time for questions and being able to wrap the session up, get those people comfortably out and meet the next, group to come into the room. So my group classes have become much smaller in size. Mm-hmm. So I have many, many, many more group classes, many more hours of group classes. And what's interesting is people can now come in the afternoon. They don't commute. They're at home. So they can wrap up their day a little earlier or, miss out on that long drive. And so my 2, 3, 4 o'clock time spots are full, which is great. So people can get out earlier in the day and enjoy their dog, do some training. I also do, private lessons one-on-one. And I have agility as well classes. And those also have, I've made them much smaller. And you really have to sign up for a spot. So I know exactly who's coming, to keep the numbers correct. And then if weather is permitting, we head outside.
Gotcha. So are all these classes right now, though, are in person? Is that correct?
Yes. So we were talking about, all the information out there on the internet and things you can look at for dog training. But to me, there's nothing like being right there in the moment with someone, with their dog, being able to say, oh, right there, did you see that dog's face change? Did you see his face change? There, he's really thinking. And just to be right there to communicate that to someone one-on-one in person. And I've always felt that way with horse training as well. They were, there's talk of, well, we can, do a Zoom lesson. And I thought, wow, that doesn't sound real to me. And what's really amazing about COVID now is that people seem to be wanting to get outside, get closer to nature, and dogs are a big part of that.
So because you're outside, are you encouraging people to wear masks? Are you able to socially distance far enough that that's not an issue? Or how is that working?
So it depends on the situation. So a lot of times I have, the whole family wants to come. I said, well, let's head outside. We can all be there. But most often, I'm coming within, range to, touch the dog or, speak to people. So most often we're wearing our masks even outside the whole time. Occasionally, if we get far enough away and someone's running an agility course, I'll let them take their mask off so they can run and breathe through their course. So, and it's working well. Everyone appreciates, the safety. We've got, hand sanitizer everywhere, and, we've definitely, the Perfect Pet is doing an amazing job with all the protocol as far as keeping everything really clean and sharp as far as cleanliness and safety.
So it sounds like that even though we are in the middle of a pandemic, that it's easy to sign up for a class, do it in person, do it safely, and be able to train your dog in sort of a really happy, healthy environment. So that's really good news.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
And classes aren't our only option. So it really, when the pandemic first started, we do and we can offer Zoom lessons or virtual lessons, and we have done that. And for some people that is comfortable and convenient, and we have been able to do that and do it successfully. Some people have signed up for virtual lessons weekly, and that has been that's been a big benefit to them. Other programs that we have seen a lot of demand for classes, as well as for our stay and train programs. And those programs are when a dog comes in and stays with us. It's lots of handling, lots of socialization opportunities, exercise and training and learning at the same time. And some people have that fits for people who may be going on vacation, who may not want to come necessarily for a lesson because there's only interaction privately upon the pickup of your dog and subsequent private lessons. So that's another option for those people. As far as our classes, and Christy, we are limiting our classes to 4, and we have a very large room for 4 people that are allowed to bring only 1 guest. So we're limiting the guests that they are allowed to bring at this time, and everyone wears masks and spreads out and social distances inside. So, and everyone is doing very well with it. So yes, your question, basically was, not only are people able to train their dogs, but they're able to train their dogs quite well right now with the flexibility, with that connection. And so many people have reached out and adopted dogs or added a new dog to their family. And it really is a beautiful thing. It's beautiful. Yeah.
It sounds like there are even more options right now for training than maybe there were before, since you do have the virtual as well. So it sounds like kind of the perfect time to dip your toes into dog training.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to ask a little bit about how much of training is about training the owner versus training the dog. And especially if you're doing training a dog over a prolonged period of time, or maybe the dog is staying with you, but then you hand the dog back over. At some point, the owner needs to know what the plan is and sort of what happened and how to move forward. So when you are training, how involved are your people opposed to the dogs, and how much of it is training the dog versus training the person? Elizabeth, I'll let you get started with this.
So I was going to say Christy would be.
Oh, go for it, Christy. You get.
But I can. Well, Christy, you start, and then I'll definitely chime in.
So the stay and trains are a great way for the dog to get a head start on understanding what is expected of them, understanding some skills from the professional who has great timing, who has worked with 1 million dogs, and can actually teach them a lot of things in a short period of time. So, but then the whole transition to now that dog doing really well in the household is that then the owner, the person, the handlers are on board with all that information. So I do a lot of the classes, and actually teaching the people is my main focus, that teaching them how to read their dog, teaching them the techniques, the timing, how to deliver a treat effectively, just tiny things like that make such a big difference. And the dogs, your average dog people bring are just lovely, animals willing and wanting to learn, enthused to be there in class, and, just getting the two of them together on the same page. The stay and trains, if their dog's having some difficulty or, getting that jump start on understanding is an awesome way to start.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So the bottom line is it's very much about people.
Yeah.
Very much about people. It's really about that connection. And one of the things that we'll hear somewhat often is, my last dog wasn't like this. And that's fun, because that's an opportunity. Right. Each dog teaches us different things. Mm-hmm. And so we're learning different handling, we're learning different body language, we're just learning different personalities and different training techniques. And it's fun. It's fun to get those opportunities.
Yes.
Yeah, dogs are just like people, and the fact that people aren't the same either, whether it be your family members or your children or whoever, the personalities are always different. Can you talk just a little bit about the differences in training a puppy versus training an older dog? And for those who have adopted a slightly older dog, or maybe even a dog that's middle-aged or beyond, what that process looks like. Can people still train their dog? Christy, why don't we start with you?
So it all depends. So people have adopted older dogs that are just absolutely lovely, ready to go on and do whatever you want. They're already mature. They've got a lot of, skills, a lot of life skills, and now they're ready just to be a good companion. Then there are older dogs people adopt that, have some maybe fear issues where they really need to just help them gain confidence. Maybe they didn't have that early socialization as a puppy, or maybe they have picked up some habits in their old life. So then it's just helping that, that person with their new dog fit into their household and overcome some of those, worries or things that they have coming forward. Puppies tend to be, they're a blank slate. So I love working with puppies. I have how many puppies in puppy class right now, Elizabeth? It's just amazing. I have like 6 or 7 puppy classes.
Wow.
Because they're small. But I so much enjoy puppies, and I just love to see them learn. Now they have a lot of energy, which can be daunting. And people get a puppy of maybe the same breed they had before, but this puppy is completely different. My old dog never did this as a puppy. So yeah, they sometimes forget what kind of work it is to raise a puppy, but just helping them with the schedule, getting their puppy on a schedule. And during COVID, this has been totally different because they're home all the time. So they forget the puppy needs, rest time, play time, eat time, and get them on a nice schedule instead of having them out and about and busy all the time. And then the older dog, sometimes they have just the skills to go on. I've had people come in and do the more advanced classes and really enjoy sort of learning from the older dog. So that's fun as well.
I have a question from a viewer right now along this line of changing schedules. So here we are in this pandemic, and so many people are home all the time. And so we've really changed our schedule for our dog. And one of the viewers is noticing that she's seen new behaviors in her dog that she hasn't seen before. And some of those are potentially problem behaviors. And so she's wondering any advice that you'd have for maybe new problematic behavior. And if you are seeing some of your clients come in, like, I've had this dog forever, I love this dog, but now with a change of routine, we have a new relationship and we have some new challenges. What would you recommend to some of those people?
Well, sure, this has happened. And it is mostly because now we're home all the time. Our dog has a different schedule. Most often our dog has, way more freedom all the time. And it's interesting because dogs watch us and our routines and our habits, and they start to figure out, when we're going to leave the house, or when this is happening, or when that's happening. And so they're learning a lot just by being with us and watching us. And then they might try things that work for them, but maybe we're not so sure we want them doing that particular behavior. So it would have to be an individual, look at this situation. I couldn't give you one formula to answer that question.
Well, we have seen this this a lot, and it's good to recognize. I mean, it's good to recognize and also understand it from the dog's perspective that it is a big change for them. Mm-hmm. So we have to acknowledge it, and then you know, again, try and think about what is going on from the dog's perspective. If we are always home and they are barking, you know, newly barking at us because we're sitting there and on a Zoom conference, for example, what can we do to help that dog adjust to our new schedule? Mm-hmm. And along the same lines, it might be worth mentioning that if we anticipate ourselves, I mean, which I guess that's a bit unknown, but you know, what may happen in the future in terms of our schedules, that mm-hmm. we ease our dogs into potentially new schedules, you know, not so abruptly. So one day we're there all the time, and the next day, you know, we're gone all the time. So there may, you know, for people that are at home and are thinking about, you know, possible things in the future, even if it's, well, it's time that I can, you know, go back and spend a little bit more time in the grocery store, even, for example. That's an adjustment that, as Christy mentioned, dogs notice. They pick up on, you know, everything that we do. As you know, when you pick up your keys or put your coat on, your dog knows that you're heading out the door. So you know, it's important to kind of think about that from a dog's perspective, and hopefully set them up to succeed if our schedule were to change again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Let's say you've identified the fact that you need a trainer and would like to move forward with that. What is the best way to find a trainer that meets your needs? So how would you recommend someone go about sort of shopping for a trainer? Elizabeth, why don't you take a stab at that one?
Sure. Okay. So research, definitely research. So it's a pretty big question. So there are a lot of dog trainers, and I think it's important to do research on their background, what they have done, where they've learned. There are schools for dog training. But there's very limited certifications through widespread certification or parent organization. So it's important to really do your research and find out all of the experiences, how many dogs have been trained, where they've trained, you know, what types of techniques they use, will it fit what you're looking for with your dog? So there's, and when you are comparing trainers, you really have to do your best to compare apples to apples. Something might sound great, but you really need to dig a little bit deeper. Because an experienced trainer, or one that can really truly help you succeed and be very successful and help your dog with whatever, if it's you know, a puppy that you want to raise with few mistakes, or as few as possible, or an older dog with maybe some problems. It is important to recognize the experience behind the trainer. So, you know, people start online, people start by asking their neighbors, people start by asking their veterinarians. There's lots of ways to go about it.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. So thank you both to Christy and Elizabeth, and all your years of expertise. And it sounds like you definitely have your hands full right now with lots of puppies and older dogs and people, lots of people. So thank you for being here with us today to answer so many of our questions about dog training. Thank you to all of our viewers and listeners today. Make sure you visit ChesapeakeFamily.com for up-to-date local information on health, living, and parenting for today's Maryland parent. This episode will be archived on ChesapeakeFamily.com in video and podcast format. I'm Janet Jefferson with Chesapeake Family and Third Floor Views. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Janet.
Thank you.
Thank you to Chesapeake Family as well.